Hello everyone, and welcome to the lecture on errors and exceptions handling. In this lecture, I will show you how we can raise our own exception. It's going to be a quick lecture, but I wanted to show you that we can raise our own exceptions. And we do this mainly for type errors and value errors. For type errors and then value errors. We have seen what value errors are, but if you run into type errors also, you can raise your own exceptions. So you might come across this in literature. That's why I wanted to quickly have this lecture and show you how we can do that. And to raise our own exception, we use the raise keyword. Okay, that's how we can raise our own exception, by using our raise keyword. We'll see some examples. So what we'll do is we'll prompt a user to enter a number, and if they don't enter a number, we'll raise an exception. Okay, let's do that. So we'll start with the try keyword, try, and then raw input, since I'm using Python 2, let's say enter a number, and then we'll convert this into an integer by casting it, and let's save this in a variable called num. So this is a simple statement, and then so what you have seen so far is we have that, and if there's an exception, we can use the except keyword. So except, then we can say print, you can only enter numbers or a number. We can say that, and then let's include a finally keyword. Finally, print all done now. Okay, so we prompt a user to enter a number, and then if they don't enter a number, we'll raise an exception. You can only enter numbers. Let's do that, and finally all done now will be printed. Okay, enter a number 9. So we don't have an else statement. Enter a number 9, all done now. Okay, what if the user doesn't enter a number? Let's say R. You can only enter numbers. The except statement is executed. So we can include, we know this is a value error if they don't enter a number, so we can say except value error, right? And this will give us the same result. You can only enter numbers. Now let's take this to the next level. So instead of this, we can say except, so if there is an exception, except value error as, let's say, error, we can say that, and then print, you can only enter numbers, and let's add some formatting. So I'll add that so that it will show us what the user entered. So that format, and then we can include the error message here. So now if we run this, please enter a number. If we enter a number, that should be fine, all done now. And if there's an exception, let's enter a character, S, run it. It says here you can only enter numbers, which is this, and then we have invalid literal for integer with base 10, and that's the character that we entered. So what we did to get this is that we raised our value error as error, and then we displayed it. We displayed that error by formatting it in our print statement. Okay, and this is just a name. You can use whatever you want. That's the same as in for loop. We can say for I in range, let's say 5, print I. That will give you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You could have said for numbers in range 5, print numbers. That will give you the same result. So similarly, we said accept value error as error and then print it by including it in the formatting. So instead of error, you can say anything that you want. Accept value error as, let's say, wrong number, print. You can only enter numbers and then you can format it into wrong number. We can do that also. Run it, let's say W. So you can only enter numbers, invalid literal for integer with base 10. Then the character we enter W. So we can do that. I'll just make this simple and say error. So raise our value error as error. And one thing I mentioned is that we can raise our own exception using this raise keyword. So now let's take this to the next level. So we have that, and we can also include another line of statement saying, let's say, raise and then space our error. So we'll be raising that value error as error. So we can say raise error. Now let's run it. So if we enter a number, that should be fine. But if you enter something different than a number, different from a number, and run it. So now you can only enter numbers. You can only enter numbers, invalid literal for integer with base 10, and then the character we entered. That's for this print statement. And then we have raised an error, which is this. We have raised our own value error, right? Invalid literal for integer with base 10p. So what's that? This is for our this value error that we have raised using the raise keyword. Raise error. So this is what I wanted to cover for this lecture. I wanted to quickly show you that we can also raise our own error by using the raise keyword, and it works mainly for value errors and type errors. And you might come across this raise statement in literature. That's why I wanted to quickly show you. Okay, let's run our program one more time. Enter a number, say 4. All done now. Great. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.